Welcome to the Real Freedom Podcast, where we inspire you to pursue your passion to gain time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I'm your host, Mike Swenson. Let's get some real freedom together. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Real Freedom Show, where we talk about building time and financial freedom through different opportunities in real estate. And I'm so excited today because today we get to talk about something that I'm also personally passionate about outside of the podcast, and that's on really helping people understand the value of investing in real estate, and two, taking your residential real estate team and doing more and more with investments there. So today's guest we have on is Alston, and she is the owner of the Lodestone Real Estate team. So what we're going to talk about today is she's got a couple of really cool programs that she's done. That's actually how we met in the past. I was curious to learn more about what she was doing in terms of the iBuyers that you hear out there, some of the cash offer for your home type programs. And she's had a lot of experience running these programs, purchasing a lot of properties, connecting with some larger scale investors as well. And so there's just so much that she's doing that's different than the way most people approach a real estate team. And so I'm so excited to have her come on and share. Alison, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, why don't you just start and just share a little bit about your background before real estate, how that led into real estate, and then a little bit into where we're at today, and then we'll dig deeper.
Absolutely. So I started off growing up. My dad was a builder, and my parents did both long-term buy and hold rentals, as well as fixing and flipping homes. They were what we call now in the industry lazy flippers. We would do the 2 years in one day and then turn around and sell it. So it was pretty neat. You know, I was very fortunate. My parents involved me in the process from a young age. So we learned how to physically build and renovate the houses ourselves, but also what it took to book rentals, how to manage the properties, different tax reasons to hold it for that 2 years in one day, and, you know, how to kind of work through some of that system. So it was a pretty incredible and powerful learning lesson for me to have. And I credit that a lot with my success early on in real estate. I always saw this as kind of a part-time thing because it was something my parents did on the side. And so graduated from college, got a job doing fundraising for private schools in the Northeast. I absolutely loved it. I spent 10 years doing it. By the end of it, I realized that I was either going to have to keep doing the same exact job for 40 more years, which does not fit my personality type, if you know me, or I was going to have to go back out on the road to move up. I had a job offer for UVA, phenomenal guy there, Gene Shutt, he was the president. Gave me a great opportunity. It was probably one of the hardest conversations I've had of saying no. But I was married about 6 months at the time, and it was going to involve me being out on the road 4 to 6 days a week. And it just wasn't the life I wanted. So my husband and I sat down and I said to him, you know, I don't think I want to do this for 40 more years. And he was like, what do you want to do? And I said, you know, I really think I want to be a realtor. And he goes, okay. So we both fell in love with Charlottesville and decided it was time to get out of the cold. So we relocated down to Charlotte with his job, and I got my license, and kind of the rest is history from there.
I'm excited when we talk about recruiting agents and having agents coming from other industries, just the skills and the experience and the transferable skills that they bring that become very valuable in real estate. And some people seem to grasp it better than others. Some people struggle a little bit longer, but in terms of kind of transferable skills, what did you notice right away as you got into real estate that's like, oh yeah, I know how to do that at a high level, or that's really comfortable for me getting into real estate once you got your license?
So I would say, besides the obvious of just knowing how to talk about a house and the features in it and what was important or not, knowing how to recognize some of the potential issues that could come up during inspections, that was a pretty quick and easy conversation piece, and kind of gave some confidence to myself as well as my clients. But also, having spent 10 years building client relations, donor relations, it is consistency. It's not intensity. And so I had developed basically the same schedule I use now, where you do your lead gen every day, right? You do your research, and you have to be consistent with your follow-up with your donors. Back when I got into the industry, the average time from first point of contact to a major gift was almost 18 months. So it was a long-term commitment to really build with those clients. So I kind of took that same approach, and I split my business immediately into two parts. So one, working with investors, specifically fix and flippers kind of to start, and then that eventually transitioned into more of the long-term rentals. And then the other half was really focusing on relocation. Having just gone through it myself, we did not have the best experience. I was determined to make it better for other people. And also just being able to really focus on that customer side of it, that the VIP relationship. I had been working in Greenwich, Connecticut, so I was very fortunate. I was exposed to some of the top wealth in the country, and I saw kind of what level of service those people expected, and was able to see some of the industry best. And so that really helped me shape and form my business practices from a more traditional residential side, and help me build a lot of the great partnerships that we have.
Well, I think too, that's not necessarily a transferable skill, but that's an experience that you bring coming from another industry. I've heard that from people before, where they get into the industry because they think, oh, I saw my agent do that and I can do it better.
Mhm.
Not that it's necessarily a knock on that person. In some cases it is, but you just see, oh, the way that I handle people, treat people, the professionalism that I
Mhm.
bring is a notch higher than what I've experienced. So I feel like I can be successful in that arena. And for sure, your background working with high net worth individuals, yeah, there's a level of customer care and service and building relationships where you can just take all that experience and just apply it to what you did when you got into the real estate side.
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot of cold calling in donor relations. So that definitely transferred. A lot of events. So doing open houses, I was like, that is my thing right away. I immediately leaned into that because I was like, oh, I can do this. If I can handle doing an open house for high net worth donors, I can definitely do an open house and make the seller's property shine.
Mhm.
So that was an easy transfer for me right away.
Real estate agents, are you tired of letting the busyness of life get in your way from achieving your real estate investing goals? I'm super excited to announce we've created the Real Freedom Investor Agent Tribe. It's a place for you to come, get educated, and network with others so that you can make sure that you're hitting your real estate investment goals. So find out more on our website, realfreedom.com. Click on the store link. We've got a membership, we've got a mastermind group, and some private coaching as well. Check it out. I've priced it super low. The goal is to get you in, not have price be a determining factor to keep you from your goals. So come check it out, schedule a call with me, and we're happy to see where your real estate journey is going to take you. Now, when you got started in real estate full-time as an agent, did you have any investment properties previously, or was that all starting fresh?
We did. We started fresh when we moved down here. We did
Okay.
not want any ties to the Northeast, just from a management perspective. So yeah, so we kind of picked up and left everything, and we're starting from scratch. So that was a little scary.
Mhm.
We got on the ground here. We were in Charlotte about 6 months before we bought our first property. And we went into it knowing it was going to be a flip. This is the first time my husband and I were doing one together. He had
Mhm.
seen my family's stuff kind of from a distance. He had not lived through it. And so I will never forget, we were in line for this property. It was a crazy season even then. And there was probably about 15 people waiting in line to go into this house. And people would walk in and out in about 2 seconds. And he's turning and he's kind of looking at me, and I wasn't licensed yet. So we had to use another realtor. And we were waiting, and the realtor was like, well, we can just move to the next one if you want. I said, no, I smell an opportunity. This is going to be the house. And he's like, okay. And we walked in, and it was pretty rough. I mean, we had to do a month worth of work before we could even move into it. But I just walked in, and just using everything that I had learned through the work with my family, I was like, it's got good bones. It's got a lot of potential. I knew the schools were about to be rezoned, and it would go in the favor of this particular house. But the prices hadn't come up yet because of it. So I was like, this is an incredible opportunity. And so it was a lot of work, but it was a great start. We were able to flip that one. and move to another area of the city. And then we held that place for 2 years and about 3 months. And then we were able to flip that one and get into kind of our dream location in the city. And that's something, I mean, we literally doubled our housing budget in a matter of 6 years. And I'm like, I don't know any other way you could do that.
So then just to clarify, when you're saying flip, you're living in it for the 2 years and then moving on. This isn't, hey, this is my side home that I'm just going to go flip, but you're living in it while you're flipping.
No. Yeah. This is our final stop for a long time. I've been informed. No, I'm actually very happy. We have a 1905 bungalow that I'm absolutely obsessed with. It's the first time I've ever actually fallen in love with a house, truly. But so everything will be on the side from now on. But yeah, we've been doing the 2 years in a day kind of thing, and then moving out and just taking advantage and rolling that equity into the next property.
So talk a little bit then about building and growing from being a solo agent to launching a team and how that's grown. And then obviously on the logistical side of the iBuyer programs that you've gotten, and go from there.
Yeah. So I would say in this business, it's all about relationships. When I started, I was actually an agent on Lodestone Real Estate. And so one of my great mentors and now business partners, Marissa Boyle, she was running the team. And I worked under her for just about 2 years. And then at that point, she was ready to go in another direction with her career. She was launching a coaching program. She does an incredible job training agents. And she sat down with me and just kind of said, hey, what do you think about taking this over? And I'm not going to lie. And we laugh about this because myself and I think everybody else around us thought she was absolutely crazy at the time. And it just, hadn't crossed my mind that that was the point at which I was at in my career.
Can I just jump in for 1 second? Because now I'm curious to know, when you joined the team, what was it about the team that attracted you to the team?
So I had left an industry where, private school fundraising, it can be a very isolating island type experience. I've always been a very hard worker, and I grinded it out, and I got from entry level to the director of the department by 30. And if you look historically, it's about a decade off from that. So I was suddenly 10 years younger than anyone who had the position. I wasn't getting a lot of respect from other people who had put in much more time to get there. They were not particularly happy to see me up there. And you're traveling, you're on the road a lot with your donors. So you really don't have that kind of collegiality. I had always been an athlete growing up. So I missed kind of that team environment. And knowing that when we were moving down to Charlotte, I knew real estate was done very differently than it is in New Jersey and Connecticut. So I had a learning curve there. But also we didn't know a single person in Charlotte. And so I was like, I've got to build my sphere from the ground up. And I'm learning a new career at, I think I was about 32 years old at the time. And it was a little daunting. And so I quickly decided I want to learn from somebody. And I went into it thinking, this might be a temporary thing, but I definitely want to be a part of a bigger organization. I want to learn from someone who's doing it the right way and doing it really well. I don't want to try and recreate the wheel myself. And it ended up being the best fit possible. And Marissa and I we met on Indeed. We ended up spending 3 hours on a phone call for what was supposed to be a 30-minute interview. And we just had this connection from day one. And so when we moved down here, I was like, all right, here's our timeline. This is when I'm signed up to go get my license, here. And she was like, all right, as soon as you've gotten your license, let me know. We'll start the onboarding and training. And we kind of haven't looked back from there. So, yeah.
I always tell people, part of it is, the value that the team can provide. And then the other part is, are you the type of person that fits that, right? Like what you're looking for needs to be a fit for what they're offering. And I think so many times we try to recruit agents just because they have a pulse and a license, but it's not that. And I've seen this too play out where your value proposition just isn't quite right, a fit for them. And that's okay. But I do think teams are incredibly valued when you do have that yin yang where what you're providing really meets what they're looking for. And so it can be a good opportunity for people. So yeah, talk about now, fast forward to you taking over the team.
Yeah, so we agreed back in 2019 that I would take over the team. So I bought out the team, and we kind of, she stayed on and we still meet and we go for a walk together once a week. Um, she took on coaching and kind of the onboarding for my agents, which is huge for me. I now handle that, but for the first year, she was instrumental in managing that piece of it while I kind of got my feet under me and started growing the team. It was a little intimidating. My first year, when I took over the team, it was right around a $50 million sales team when I bought it from her. My first year, we ended up doing about 27 million. And so, I knew all eyes were on me, and I was like, all right, I've got to push this and keep this going. And I was like, I'm not going to fail. And so just kind of kept working at it. In 2021, I ended up taking over a company called iAgent Offer. And that was what really launched my first big push with the larger investment buyers. And so at that point, I started working with some of the REITs. Thankfully, my connections back in Greenwich, Connecticut, some of them saw what I was doing, wanted to also get involved in investing in Charlotte, North Carolina. I had already built the trust through years of working with them. So they became a good part of my business as well. And so kind of pulled together this group of investors and said, hey, let's create some other opportunities, right? We had just gotten through the first year of COVID. So many sellers did not want people in their homes still, did not want to have the showings, the open houses, and yet also didn't want to be taking a huge hit. A lot of the programs out there were charging fees upwards of 7, 8, 9, 10%, not to mention discounting the property 20 to 30% below market value. It's a pretty big hit for a homeowner to take.
Yeah.
So I kind of pivoted my business, kept the relocation focus going, but used that to feed leads over to my agent clients. And then went ahead and took over iAgent and used that to start building up the investor piece of it. Selfishly, it also allowed me personally to be able to spend less time running around to different houses. So it freed me up to be available for the agents on my team because I could sit and do a lot of the work from the office.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the, I guess, misconceptions out there in the market, talking about these sellers want full price retail offers on their property as cash offers. And sometimes when people are marketing a full price offer, that's more or less kind of the investor full price offer, not necessarily the retail full price offer that they'll find on the MLS. And there is that gap there. And yet, at the same time, there can be a fit for people based on their motivation and those sorts of things where you can find that win-win scenario. So talk about that program and how you come in and help somebody that's looking to sell, or work with agents who have identified these properties looking to sell.
Yeah. So at this point in time, I actually have 2 different off-market companies. So iAgent Offer is still up and running. That is really geared towards agent to agent. So it is for the agents who are going out, getting these listings, and they're sitting down and they've got any number of issues coming up in the initial conversation with their seller. Whether it's, okay, in the market in Charlotte, if you've got a contingent sale, you're pretty much dead on arrival right now, and have been for almost the last 5 years. So we had some other companies, like Ribbon was around for a bit. They've since dissolved. But we had companies that came in and were like, okay, we're going to go ahead and we'll pay cash for your next property. They were very creative. I loved some of the solutions they came up with, but ultimately the fees were so high, it just wasn't financially feasible for most sellers. So it really didn't create the solution we needed in this market. So we started going out and saying, hey, listen, you've got this seller, they need to get rid of the contingent sale. Our investors will go ahead and purchase their house from them, and then we'll give them a lease back. And so they're not paying 2 mortgages. They're not stressed trying to get the house sold and giving it up for a less than they should, right? And they're not racing to find this new home that may not necessarily be the right one for them. So we created that solution, and we did it to keep the agent in the transaction. We wanted to keep that professionalism in there. We didn't want a seller to just be able to go online, pop in their address, get a number, and then kind of run with it. We had a few for sale by owners when we first started, and we quickly found it just wasn't working. We really wanted to go back to having that two-sided professional relationship. So that was the focus of that. And then just a few months ago, I was very fortunate. We're at eXp Realty. And one of the things that I love so much about that platform is the ability to collaborate with so many different agents. It is one of the few brokerages where I feel like it actually incentivizes us to work together and grow together. And so there are 5 of us who decided to pool all of our investor resources, and we created a company called Shop Cash Offers. And effectively what it is we have over 25 investors from large scale REITs all the way down to your fix and flippers. We have individual clients who have become investors because of our educating them on the process. And so this program allows the seller to go ahead and put in their property to get an offer, because some of these funds will only represent themselves. So we can't represent them. So we're like, hey, let's just find them a solution, right? Let's take care of the consumer. It's supposed to be our fiduciary duty. So let's actually do it. And then for those that want us to represent them, the agents can come in and we can work together still. So it kind of gives us the best of both worlds, and just brings some more opportunities to the sellers. And it's a much lower fee for them than a lot of the other programs out there. So we charge a $5,000 flat fee. That's it.
Yeah. And I like how you're able to combine your experience, what you know about the customer, and really try to find solutions that fit the customer, because a lot of times they want choices. They want different options because not everything's cookie cutter. And the more that I've been working with investors too, I also realize that not everybody wants the highest price. Now that might sound silly to those people that haven't done this before, but some people, everybody's got a different story, whether it's I inherited this home, whether it's we have to sell this home quickly because of XYZ reason, or I don't want people in my home for kind of germ disease sake or just preference sake, to I don't want to have to do all the work to fix up my home before I list it and have it look nice. I'm willing to take a discount for some of those things, and everybody's in a different spot. I know when we bought this house, we just had our a new baby, and we've got 3 kids, and it's daunting to think about keeping a house in great shape when you have 3 kids under the age of, I think at that time maybe 6.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
tough too. And so people have reasons why they want to sell. And so providing options and solutions for people really can go a long way.
It really can. And I think that's the key part of this, right? At the end of the day, our job as realtors is to make sure that we're educating our clients on what their options are, and then closing our mouths and letting them make the decision, right? Because they have to know what's best for them. So anytime we go into any of these businesses, on market or off market, we're always sitting down and saying, listen, here are your options, right? Option 1, here's your cash offer. This is what this process is going to look like. This is roughly what this price will look like. Option 2, you can do it the traditional way. Go on market. This is what that process will look like. This is what that net will look like for you. And option 3, is there a possibility for you to maintain and hold this property yourself, become an investor yourself, and rent this property out, right? I think a lot of people have this negative connotation of the word investor. And I love sitting down and having this conversation with sellers. And they're like, well, I'm not an investor. And then they give me this whole diatribe of the Main Street versus Wall Street and everything else. And I just look at them and I say, well, I'm an investor. Do you think I'm a bad person? And every time they're like, well, no. And I'm like, okay, well, so let's talk about this, right? Let's have this dialogue. There's a reason why people have built generational wealth through real estate. And it's like investing in it isn't necessarily just, okay, well, I own a house and I'm living in it, and so that's an investment. It's also, all right, well, do you want to do a short-term rental or a midterm rental or a long-term rental, right? Do you want to have a vacation house? Here's some different opportunities that I think people are leaving a lot on the table because no one's talking about this. And so I think that's the biggest thing is even if they tell me to go kick rocks and they don't want to be a property manager or a landlord, I get it. It's not for everyone, but at least they've had the opportunity to think about it, consider it, and see if it is right for them.
I totally agree. And this is why I mean, a big part of, doing this podcast and the membership group that I have too, it's at least just listen long enough to make an informed decision about not
Exactly.
wanting to be an investor, because yeah, there's so much powerful potential there that people just don't realize. And yeah, it's easier if you're like, hey, I really like Apple, I'm going to invest in Apple stock. Boom, now I'm done. But you can make some really great returns in real estate. It's going to take some partnerships and some relationships. It's going to
Mhm.
take some education and take some risks,
Yeah,
and some risk management. But at the same time, what's on the other side, there's so much potential there. And people just think, I don't have enough, or I don't know how to get started, so I'm just going to say no to it for the rest of my life, versus hear me out here. Let's talk about this. Let's be open to a conversation, because what's on the other side is a ton of great opportunity. We just have to be open to the conversations.
exactly. Exactly. And I think it's just, it goes back to doing the right thing always for the client. And so even if they're not interested, at least you've tried. You've tried to educate them, you've let them know, and you can kind of rest easy knowing they've got their opportunities and they've made the decision, right? It wasn't me making the decision for them by neglecting to inform them of the potential out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's probably been the most rewarding thing for me over the past. I'm on my 7th year in the business right now, and I have had the fortunate experience of these different clients that I've worked with coming to me now, around 3, 4 years in. Hey, I'm ready to go ahead and sell that starter home you helped me buy. I want to go to the next one, and being able to sit down with some of them and share these options and say, hey, what about turning this into a rental? And having some of them do that, and then having them come back and tell me, this is incredible. I was able to get to this goal that much sooner because I'm now cash flowing and doing this. I'm able to pay down the mortgage on my house quicker. I have one client, she literally was able to leave her W-2 job that she hated. She was miserable in it. She has a bunch of Airbnb properties she's worked very hard on. And she was like, you know what? That was able to provide me with the cash flow I needed to purchase these properties. But because of you helping me strategically pick the right ones and set this business up, I can now leave my other job and go do what I want to do. And to me,
Mm-hmm.
that was such an incredible feeling and so rewarding. And that I was like, all right, this is why I do what I do.
You really are helping make the impact at the family level, at the
Mhm.
individual level, because REITs are nice, right?
Yeah.
People can make money off of them as well, but having that personal story of that friend that that past client, to have their life impacted because of some sort of investment opportunity, however that looks for them, that's the fun part.
Yeah. I want to hit on that really quickly. So REITs are wonderful things, right? They're not all made the same, just like any other company. But this idea of them as like this evil empire, it breaks my heart. And I ask people to take a step back and rethink the whole situation, right? First of all, I get to work with some incredible employees of these REITs. I have a contact I've been working with for almost 3.5 years. She's a phenomenal human being. She has a family she's supporting with this job. She has referred me her brother and her sisters. I've gotten to help them get into homes and start building wealth for their family members. You know, that is an incredible friendship and a relationship that I wouldn't have without that REIT. I
Mm-hmm.
would also say they employ me, they help support me and my family, not to mention the families on my team.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge impact, right? And then the other thing is these people are like, well, I'm never going to sell my house to a REIT. I'm like, okay, well, don't sell your house to them. However, you should probably take a close look at your retirement account, because I guarantee you your money is invested with one of them or something that they're attached to. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's all interconnected. And I think people just need to take a step back and stop being so angry about things and just look, it's a circular, right? It's a whole circular economic cycle. we're all supporting one another. It's when something gets out of line and out of whack and there's too much in any direction, then it can become a bad thing. But as long as we keep everything in moderation, I think it's actually a really healthy thing. I have many clients that I've sat down and had the conversation with them of what owning a home looks like. They're not ready for it.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, I think we've created this sense in America of, in order to be an American, in order to live the American dream, you have to be a homeowner. Do I understand people who don't want to do it? I don't, because I do think it's such an incredible tool to build that generational wealth and be able to retire and not have to worry about things. But I do understand, and I am coming to terms with, it's not for everyone, and that's
Mhm.
okay. So it's like, let's provide them with opportunities, or what about the family who doesn't have the financial means to get into the good school district, right? They can't buy a house there, but now this REIT has bought a house and created a rental. So now their kids can go there. They can get that leg up. They can start to build that. Obviously, I started in education. So that is a firm underlying factor in everything that I do. I believe very, very strongly in it. My dad didn't graduate from college, and it was pushed really heavily in our household. You will get a good college degree. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm very proud of, I went to Vanderbilt University and I worked my butt off, and my parents pushed me hard. And that has opened so many doors for me. So I'm so grateful for that. So it's like, if we can help kind of push that education along, amazing. But I think just this concept of somebody being evil in the marketplace versus somebody else, it just really, I love changing the narrative on that.
At least for your future, your kids, they're going to know what's at stake, or, anybody that you encounter in life, they're going to know what's at stake because you were raised experiencing kind of the fix and flip, the property management side. And so you were at least exposed to that. And that's the same thing. Like I think about my kids that, yeah, they might decide, it's not going to be, hey, they're going to take over for dad in real estate. It's no, here's what dad does. If it's something that excites you, here's why I do it. Because I grew up in a household where it was, W-2 job, safe, stable. And
Yep.
both of my parents actually were kind of forced to retire early because of decisions at the companies that they worked with. And they were kind of just old enough where they could make it work, but
Mhm.
ideally not where they wanted to be. And so I look at it as, now I have the opportunity to have my fate in my own hands. And, yeah, there's a ton of challenges, a ton of stress that comes from it. But now with my kids, I can say, hey, here's what's at stake. Here's a couple of paths, here's some options, and choose what works for you. But you get a chance to pass off what you learned from your parents to people, to your clients. I mean, your
Yeah.
clients and the other people on your team. There's so many people that now get to see the lessons that you've learned because of what we're exposed to at a young age.
Yeah. And, for me, I'm smiling. I'm thinking, my dad, when I went and told my parents that I was quitting my career and going to go into real estate, I was terrified because I'm like, okay, you don't need a college degree to be a realtor.
Mhm.
Um, they just paid for all this education. Like, I was very fortunate. I did not come out with student loans. My parents took care of that. And I remember being terrified. And my dad looked at me and he said, "It's about time." I said, "Excuse me?" He goes, "You are the worst employee ever." He was like, "You constantly have to be growing and learning and doing something. You are not a routine 9 to 5 person." And he was like, "And you question everything." He goes, "I'm amazed you have not been fired ever in your career." And I just started laughing. I said, "Well, thank you very much. Very loving and supportive, but I'll take it."
Mhm.
But my husband and I don't have any kids of our own, but we have some incredible nieces and nephews. And it's amazing that we do have, our own business, and it's definitely stressful. But I get up every day and I'm ecstatic to do what I do. So I'm like, all right, that's a win. But I also have the opportunity to say, you know what, I want to go make it. I flew up to New Jersey where my family still lives, and I got to go up and spend a weekend for Mother's Day and my sister's birthday, and go to my nephew's soccer practice and spend
Mhm.
time with my niece playing. And it's just things that with my old job, I would have had to put in for the time off, and then you're counting the days and everything else. And it's like, it's just incredible to have those opportunities. So yeah, I hope that's something that, like, your kids, they learn and they see that this is an option, and it's not always sunshine and rainbows, but it gives you a lot of incredible opportunities, and you get to say when, you
Yep.
know?
And even if it's not full time, it's something on the side that gives them choices. If it's
Exactly.
not like, hey, I'm a full-time investor or a full-time agent, I got a property or two, something like that. And now I can have a little bit more freedom of my decision because of what I've been able to apply. So
Exactly. Well, you're far more generous than I am. I think maybe because they're not my kids, but I'm determined that one of them will become a realtor and take over.
and it's interesting to see kind of what their passions are and what they want to do. I mean, my 5-year-old wants to be a ninja. So at some point he's going to realize like full-time ninjas isn't necessarily, a career, but I'm going to support him. And he's going to Taekwondo classes and he's
That's awesome.
having fun doing that.
I love it.
So Alison, where can people reach out to you if they want to learn more about what you have up your sleeve and what you want to do here in the future?
Yeah, so they can certainly follow us at Lodestone REI on Instagram. We post a lot of our short videos and clips there. They can watch me on American Dream TV, Selling Charlotte. We have that on our YouTube channel, Lodestone Real Estate. So past episodes will be posted there. We do a lot of interviewing with some of our favorite vendors and partners. They can learn more about what we're doing as a business. And then otherwise, you can always email me. I always give my email first, not my cell phone. I'm learning. But Alison, ALISON at lodestonerealestate.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, and excited to see where these new developments go and what the future has in store for you.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike. It's been a pleasure and it's been great connecting with you.